The Toronto Blue Jays have had a tough go round when it comes to their first round picks in recent memory. And on July 14th, they will once again be selecting 20th overall in the first year player draft. I'm going to talk about 8 different players I think the Toronto Blue Jays could take at that position, whether it be because of just fit or guys that I've seen mocked there by the draft experts. I'll begin with a little bit of history of the Ross Atkins draft era. After Ross got hired, they retained scouting director Brian Parker for the 2016 draft and then fired him 2 months after that draft. So Ross gets a little credit for 2016, but he has had his hands fully on this thing since the 2017 draft. Right now, Shane Farrell is the director of amateur scouting and has been since 2020. Farrell is the son of former Blue Jays manager John Farrell, who famously asked out of his Blue Jays contract to go manage the Red Sox. Since the 2016 draft, the Blue Jays have only drafted in the top 10 once, where they took Austin Martin 5th overall. They have drafted 20th or later 6 of their last 10 first-round picks. Going more in depth to the MLB draft, Major League Baseball assigns slot values to each pick in the first 10 rounds of the draft, which are essentially recommended signing bonus amounts. The total of these slot values for a team's picks constitutes their bonus pool, the amount that they can spend on signing bonuses without incurring penalties. It's interesting in Major League Baseball drafts how they divvy up their signing bonus pools. Sometimes you'll take a college player in the first round, sign him under slot so you can take a high upside high school guy, take him away from his college commitment in the second round. Looking at the first round picks in the Atkins era, they've only signed 3 of the 8 players to above slot bonuses, which once again isn't always a bad thing. Since the 2016 draft, with their first round selections, the Blue Jays have selected 6 college players and 3 high schoolers. 2 of those high schoolers came in their last 2 drafts. Looking at the positions, they've drafted 5 pitchers, 4 right-handers, 1 left-hander, and 3 shortstops since 2016 in the first round. The Toronto Blue Jays haven't drafted a catcher in the first round since 2014 and haven't drafted an outfielder or corner infielder in the first round since 2012. And although the first round hasn't been great, they have done well in the other rounds of the draft. So again, the Blue Jays are drafting 20th overall. That is behind the New York Mets and ahead of the Minnesota Twins, and the bonus slot for their pick is just above $4 million. Now it's time to get into the specific players I think the Blue Jays have the best chance of drafting. This year's pick screams college bat. The group of college bats around the 20th pick are really good, and I think there is a high upside arm that is in the mix that has been mocked as well, but everything else just seems to be college bats. And more specifically, a ton of smoke about a college catcher. So as much as I think they're going to go bat, there is an intriguing arm at this range, and that is big right-hander Brody Brecht out of Iowa. Brecht is 6'4", 235 pounds, is going to be 21 on draft day. From his MLB.com scouting report, despite displaying first-round stuff during his summer high school senior season and getting overtures of first-round money from pro teams in 2021, Brody Brecht turned them down because he was set on playing wide receiver at Iowa as well. He redshirted in football in his first year with the Hawkeyes and played a little bit in his second year before deciding to be done with football and concentrate on baseball last March. And that season, right after he gave up football, he led NCAA Division I with a 143 opponent average in 2023. Before getting off to a slow start this season, scouts complained about how Iowa had messed with his pitches and mechanics. He ended up making some adjustments for a stronger finish, and if he went in the first round, that would be the program's first rounder since 1990. When he's on, Brody Brecht's fastball and slider are comparable to those of Paul Skeens, obviously the number 1 pick in last year's draft, doing it big in the big leagues right now. Brecht sits 96 to 99 and can touch 101 with his heater, which has explosive run and better shape than Skeens' fastball. But Brecht doesn't locate close to as well. As good as the fastball is, his slider is his best pitch. He'll be 87 to 89 with the slider, even touching 91, ton of horizontal and vertical action on the pitch. Brody Brecht threw more sliders than fastballs at Iowa this year, which didn't help him improve his fastball command. He doesn't have good feel for his splitter. He seems like the perfect guy for the splinker. His main issue is control. He was 3rd in the country with 61 walks in 77 innings last spring and very similar control issues this year. And he does run that reliever risk. But you get him into the right pitching lab, which I think the Blue Jays can do. He is such a good athlete that I think things will work. Looking at the stats, Brody Brecht was 4-3 this season with a 3.33 ERA. He had 128 strikeouts in 78 and a third innings pitched. And if you take his full 3 years at Iowa, he was a 3.49 ERA with 282 strikeouts in 178 innings. That's the good. The bad is he had 135 walks in that span. Just this year, Brecht was top 15 in the country in strikeouts, walks, and slugging percentage and batting average against. And he just mixes in a 2.55 Sierra. Draft prospects are graded on a 20/80 scale where 50 is MLB average. So MLB.com has given Brody Brecht a 70 grade fastball, 70 grade slider, a 50 grade splitter, his control 40, and overall a 50 grade prospect. The God-given talent is there for Brody Brecht. He just needs to put some things together. And if starting doesn't work out, it seems like he is the next in line in the Mason Miller types. Next, we're going off to the SEC, someone who has been mocked to the Jays a bunch, and that is Tommy Tank's Tommy White of LSU. White is a 6'1", 228-pound, I'll call him a corner infielder, played a ton of third base at LSU, but most scouts have him moving to play first base when he gets to pro ball. Looking at his MLB.com scouting report, they said on him, although Tommy White produced some of the best raw power and exit velocities in the 2021 class, pro teams wouldn't meet his asking price, and he opted to attend North Carolina State instead. He became a big deal pretty early as he homered 3 times in his first college game and 9 times in his first 8 contests, en route to setting the NCAA Division I freshman and NC State records with 27 home runs. As a sophomore, he ended up transferring to LSU, and he went deep 24 times that season while being the leader in runs batted in with 105 that season, helping LSU win a College World Series. That season, he injured his right shoulder in the season opener and required minor surgery during that summer. Tommy White continues to stand out with his huge right-handed power to all fields, which he generates with strength, bat speed, and an uncanny ability to barrel baseballs. The problem, he's pretty aggressive and regularly expands his strike zone, but he's rarely swinging and missing. It's kind of like the Vlad thing last year. Wasn't striking out a ton, but making some bad contact on pitches out of the zone, giving himself up. Looking at his numbers from this past season, Tommy White hit .330 with a .401 on base percentage, a .1039 OPS, 12 doubles, 24 home runs, and he drove in 70 runs with a 137 weighted runs created plus. And to the surprise, all are the worst numbers of his 3-year college career. I think the most impressive thing about seeing Tommy White hit is his ability to go backside. He's able to stay patient, and he's got a ton of power to take balls the other way out of the yard. Just this season, Tommy White ran a 12% strikeout rate and an 8.6% walk rate. The scouts are saying they're worried about his profile as he swings the bat a ton and has never had over a 9% walk rate, which is tough to find of the guys who are averaging over 25 home runs in college baseball the last 3 seasons. Looking at the scouting grades that MLB.com gave him, they gave him a 55 hit grade, 60 power, 30 run, 50 arm, 40 field, and overall a 55 grade. Tommy White is a great player, an exciting player, and a well-known player. But like Brecht, there are some worries. I don't think picking a college first baseman would be my favorite pick the Blue Jays could make. Next on our list is just going to be a position. Like I talked about earlier, that position is catcher, and more specifically, college catchers. There's a trio of college catchers who are all ranked around the same spot, and I have seen different mock drafts having the Blue Jays selecting each of these 3 players. The 3 catchers are Malcolm Moore of Stanford, Walker Yannick of Sam Houston State, and Caleb Lomavita of Cal. Of the 3 catchers, I have found myself liking Yannick the most as he seems to be the most well-rounded, and he put together a great season at the plate, and he was rewarded as the first team All-American catcher. But let's look at the differences between all 3 of these options. Looking first at Walker Yannick, he is a premium defender with plus pop times, good bat-to-ball skills, and power in his right-handed bat that produced 17 home runs this spring and a 167 weighted runs created plus. Yannick has hit over 300 every season as a Bearcat and hit 368 this season. Malcolm Moore of Stanford was one of the top-rated prospects in the 2022 prep class, but he made it to campus. And he made an instant impact at Stanford his freshman season for a club that went to the College World Series. In that season, he hit .311 with 15 home runs and 20 doubles. But as a draft-eligible sophomore, he struggled a ton at the plate this season, and he's the only left-handed hitter of this bunch. This year, Moore hit 255 with 16 home runs for a 121 weighted runs created plus. Moore is probably the worst defender of this group, as they once considered him to be a liability defensively, but they said he's made a ton of strides. I came across a tweet from Joe Doyle that said, in speaking with several executives who handled player interviews at the Combine, one thing was abundantly clear: Malcolm Moore had made himself a lot of money. He gave a 90 grade interview, something they're calling back to that 2080 scale. But he said that his interviews blew away the whole industry. I think the number 3 guy of these 3 catchers is going to be Caleb Lomavita. He's a super athletic guy behind the dish and found some success in the Cape Cod League for 2 summers, which is always a good thing against the top competition for college summer leagues. He isn't the best receiver, but he has a ton of arm strength. When you look at him at the plate, he swings at absolutely everything. I was worried about Tommy White's walk rates before. Lomavita, if you take his last 2 seasons, 5% walk rate, and the chase could be a real concern. But I still think he swings it really well. This year, he hit 322 with a 128 weighted runs created plus, 15 bombs, and for a catcher, really good. He added 12 stolen bases. Scout thinks he's so athletic, they could even move him to third or even a corner outfield spot. MLB.com gave all of these players 50 grades. They rank Yannick first, Moore second, just 2 spots after him, and then Lomavita last, I think 5 spots after that. We go to the Midwest for one of my favorite players in this draft, and that is Oklahoma State 2A guy Carson Benj. After missing his freshman year due to Tommy John surgery, Benj put up 2 massive seasons for Oklahoma State. He's a wiry but athletic build at 6'1", 184, and played mostly right field this season and a right-handed reliever. Scouts are saying that Carson Benj has first-round talent at the plate and third-round talent on the mound. From his MLB scouting report, at the plate, few college hitters in this class can match Benj's combination of bat-to-ball skills and high exit velocities. He's a left-handed hitter, controls the strike zone, and uses the opposite field very well. He should have solid future power thanks to his combination of hitting ability and bat speed, and they said that he did a great job of turning on and lifting more pitches as this spring progressed. When you look on the mound, he's intriguing as a quick-armed right-hander with a fastball that reaches 97 miles per hour, a solid slider, and he has the makings of an average changeup and control, but he prefers hitting and focused more on that this spring, and things worked out really well for him. One of the draft analysts, Peter Flaherty, had this to say about Carson Benj. He is described as having thunderous hand speed, barrel explodes through the zone, swing is tailored towards getting the ball up in the air with backspin. Great way to hit home runs. His highest quality of contact comes to the pull side, where his power grades out as a 55, borderline 60. But Benj has shown the ability to drive the baseball with authority to all fields. His power as a whole, Peter Flaherty would say, is above average. And he has a sound approach with above average pitch recognition skills. His feel for the barrel and bat to ball ability are both plus. He had a 92% overall in-zone contact rate this season, which would give his hit tool as a 60. The plate coverage he has while being able to consistently generate quality contact was very impressive this season. Looking at his stats, he hit 335 this season with an 1109 OPS, adding 18 home runs, 10 stolen bases for a 151 weighted runs created plus. If you look at his walks to his strikeouts, Benj had 49 walks and 51 strikeouts this season. When you look on the mound, he was 3-1. He had 3 saves, a 2.75 ERA, an opponent batting average of just 165 against him, and a 28.4% strikeout rate. MLB.com has given him the scouting grades of a 55 hit, 55 power, 50 run, 60 arm, 55 field as a hitter. That's what I'm going to go off of for this one. I think Carson Benj is a great pick here. I hope he's available for the Jays at 20, and that's who I think I want them to pick the most. Next up is national champion third baseman Billy Amick from Tennessee. Amick is 6'1", 217, and the son of former NASCAR driver Lyndon Amick. He has the same Tommy White concerns when it comes to moving across the diamond and having to be a first baseman, but he is addicted to pull side fly balls, which everyone is going to love. This season at Tennessee, he hit 306 with a 1026 OPS, 23 home runs, but only stole 3 bases, still a 134 weighted runs created plus. Looking at the strikeout and walk rates, he was an 18.2% strikeout rate and 9.9% walk rate. The fun thing is going to be his batted ball profile. This season, he had a ground ball rate of 32.4% and a fly ball rate of 49%. That is the exact same ground ball rate Aaron Judge is running right now, and that is a better fly ball rate than Aaron Judge has at this moment. That should set you up for some success. Amick has a quality right-handed swing and repeatedly barrels balls despite frequently chasing pitches out of the strike zone. His aggressive approach yields hard contact to all fields, but does cut into his walk totals. His bat speed and strength create plus raw power that plays all over the ballpark and should translate into 20 to 25 homers per season. They said he has a great work ethic to continue to improve, but he may wind up at first base after all. They give Billy Amick scouting grades of a 50 hit, 55 power, 40 run, 50 arm, and 45 fielding for an overall 50 grade. I think Amick's a really fun player, and I wouldn't hate the Blue Jays taking him in this spot. And the last player I realistically think the Jays could take is going to be Ryan Waldschmidt, a 6'2", 205 outfielder from the University of Kentucky. Waldschmidt has dealt with a ton of adversity to get to where he is today. MLB.com wrote on him that Waldschmidt was lightly recruited and scouted as a Florida high schooler because he injured his arm in a home plate collision as a freshman catcher. He could then only DH as a sophomore, lost most of his junior season to the pandemic shutdown, and then ended up at Charleston Southern. In his first college season there, he did have a 1043 OPS, then transfers to Kentucky the next season and an 872 OPS. Last year, he was off to a hot start in the Cape Cod League when he stepped in a hole making a throw from the outfield and blew out his left knee, requiring ACL surgery that limited to DH duties in the first few weeks of this season. But every week, as he got healthier in this college season, he started to wow scouts with his tools, performance, and dazzled analysts with his metrics, pushing his way into first round consideration. Looking at his stats from this season, Waldschmidt hit .333 with 14 tanks. He had 25 stolen bases for a 1079 OPS and a 151 weighted runs created plus. His batted ball profile also shows someone who has the ability to do a ton of damage in the air. He had a 34.7% ground ball rate and a 45.5% fly ball rate. He struck out 45 times this season and walked 41 times. I love his athleticism, and I think this could be an awesome spot for him to land. More on his scouting report, there are few players in this draft who can match Waldschmidt's ability to make contact, avoid chasing pitches, and produce high exit velocity. He has a very patient approach, a quick right-handed swing, and it looks less uphill than it did in his first season with the Wildcats. He uses the entire field, but also has an affinity for driving balls in the air to his pull side. He looks really cool when he hits home runs to the pull side. As he's gotten healthier, his run times have improved from fringy earlier in the season to solid with flashes of plus run. The only real knock on him is that he's not a great left fielder. He looks a little tentative at times, and some evaluators wonder if his quickness should merit a look in center field at the next level. He mostly played third base at Charleston, but his below average arm doesn't fit at the hot corner. MLB.com gave him scouting grades of 55 hit, 55 power, 55 run, 40 arm, and 45 field, overall 50 grade. Those are the guys that I think could go to the Toronto Blue Jays, but knowing how draft works, they're going to take some Texas high schooler instead. Most of the research today was taken from MLB.com, Baseball America, and PBR, with the advanced stats coming from D1 Baseball. Thank you to everyone who watched this video, and I hope you enjoyed this year's draft.